It is time once again for the weekly closes on our favorite Bitcoin miners. But before we get going, smash that like button, subscribe if you've been with us for a while and haven't done so yet. Check out the Trade Cave store, link in the description as well as the channel bio. Let's get into it. CleanSpark is the first one here. The weekly close on CleanSpark. We closed out down at 809. That's a bit concerning there. We didn't do so hot. Now, the only thing I do like about this weekly chart is the fact that volume is falling. You can see this volume is coming down and down and down and down and down. Basically, since the week of July 15th, we've been seeing a decrease in volume pretty much every week since then. Much like since we peaked out here in February, right? March. Yeah, March. Volume was also falling at that time too when it rose from February through March. You can see volume coming down here as price was increasing, and then we eventually came down and then got stuck in a range there. So I am looking for something like that now, since volume is falling here on this decrease in the price of CleanSpark on the weekly. Now, a bit of a concern is that we are significantly below that August 5th low, which was at 929-ish, somewhere in that range. Yeah, about 930, 929, somewhere in there. That's where that came to a low, and we have re-entered the lows back over here. Now, we beat out these two wicks here, or two bodies, sorry, the two bodies of the candles here from February 5th and January 19th. That February 5th candle was a 68% candle there, and we've given that all back. Now, if we go any lower than this line right here, the 752, if we go any lower than 752, we are at risk of coming down, back down towards the fives. Okay, that is a real thing. That is a concern. I have been buying this week. I was DCAing into this as it fell. I was DCAing into Iren as it fell. I was DCAing into Bitfarms as it fell. I was rolling my MicroStrategy position as it fell. But that's a whole other video. We'll talk about that at that time when we do another episode of Income Machine. Anyways, the weekly is bad. It looks bad. So we had this bear flag, right? And I alerted everyone to this bear flag when I saw it, right? About 2 weeks ago. It broke to the downside bad. It broke down bad. Now, this could be the area where it starts to want to look to turn around a little bit. Now, we may have front-loaded, excuse me, September here with all of this negativity. I mean, Tesla was down, what, 7% on Friday? That was brutal. That was horrible. Nvidia has fallen down almost to $100 again here from 130 just around earnings. Like, yeah, everything's kind of getting punished right now at the very beginning of September, and I'm thinking that has to do with the rate cuts that they're going to want to pull through here later on in the month. So anyways, let's take a look at the fib clouds for the weekly. Let's go ahead and turn those on. All right, so we came to the very bottom of the ATR bands here. So you can see that we came down to the blue ATR here. So basically, we were destined to do this the moment we got this candle here on June 24th, but that was completely detached from the mid ATR band. As soon as we got that candle and then we came back, retested it, and failed, we were destined to come down here and at least touch the purple line, if not the blue line down here. And that has happened now. We have touched that there. I wonder actually how this looks on the Bollingers. Let's take a look at the Bollingers. So this is the Bollingers. We are getting very close again to touching the very bottom of the Bollinger again, which usually leads to a bounce. If we go any lower here, we're going to hit the bottom of this Bollinger here for the weekly. The bottom weekly Bollinger is not a place I dislike buying, to be honest. It's an area I like to buy. It does not scare me at all buying it down there, because this price probably isn't going to drop a whole lot lower unless the fundamentals, the underlying fundamentals of the company have fallen apart, and I don't think that they have in the case of CleanSpark. Now, I dislike some of the choices they're making in terms of how they're doing their future dilution planning their future dilution, but overall, I still see CleanSpark coming at least back up into the $15-16 range, which from where it currently is 100% return. Now, I have said in the past that we don't get into crypto-related plays for only a 100% return, but if I'm expecting only a 100% return, I'll take it. So around, valuations of like $13, yeah, that wasn't a great prospect of moving up from 13 to 15 or 16, but from moving from 8 to 16, that's a much bigger prospect, something I'm much more interested in at this point in time. So I have been loading up my CleanSpark. But these candles still look bad. So I've been DCAing. I haven't been loading the boat. I have been DCAing into these. And of course, none of this is financial advice or a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any asset whatsoever, simply for informational and entertainment purposes here at the Trade Cave. Mara doing the same thing as CleanSpark. This week we broke the August 5th lows. We broke those lows today. That's bad. Now we are coming up on support here. The support is right, it's on support. Basically, if it goes any lower, it's going to drive into this support down here at $10. So $10.31. All right. If we drive any lower on this, there's weak support at $12. After that is $10.30. So Mara looks like it wants to be on a crash course with $10.30 right now. We broke out and have this entire week completely away from this ascending channel here. We are broken down from that ascending channel, this large ascending channel. We're broken out of it now on Mara. That is bad. Okay, that's bad. So we got a little bit of support right here. If we go, like I said, we drive any lower, 10.30, here we come on Mara. That's not guaranteed. Of course, if we reverse here and go back up, let's take a look at the Bollinger Bands. Where are we in the Bollinger Band? The Bollinger Band is down at, I cannot see that. It is down at 1196. The bottom weekly Bollinger Band is down at 1196. And remember, I've got it on the 3x multiplier, so it's more than the average. So these are actually wider than your average Bollinger Band, which are usually only on the 2 times multiplier. So this is it's a wider Bollinger Band, and we're about to hit the bottom of it. So that's a little concerning there for Mara in terms of one, how low it is, but not concerning. That's actually a little bit hopeful in terms of it turning around once it hits there. Okay, let's take a look now at the fib clouds. Let me go ahead and where'd you go, buddy? Uh-oh. Oh no. Uh-oh. There it is. Why is that like that? I want this to be right next to my fib clouds. Right there. There we go. That's perfect. Okay. Turn on the fib clouds. We're nowhere near the bottom ATR band, so that's no good. That was no good at all, buddy. Yeah, and we're completely, ooh, that's rough. So we see this pink fuchsia line here. That's the 200-week moving average and the center of the fib Bollinger Bands. We came up, retested it, and rejected it. That's bad. That's really bad, actually. So I wouldn't be surprised if we came to test that 1030 range, maybe even came to this bottom Bollinger Band at 938 now. That I see that, actually. Like, this is your very classic retest and failure, or, you know, retest and launch. Like, back here, let me show you exactly what that looks like on the other side of things right here, right? It went up here, came back, retested it, and launch. Okay, now we're doing that to the downside. We came down, broke it, came back, retested it, and drop. We're looking for a drop here on Mara right now based on that. And this is probably going to go through for another week or two. We'll probably see another week or two of weakness, and then I think sometime after the cut, we'll see something big come out of these names here. In the very near future, but I think first we're gonna get some pain. We're gonna deal with some pain first, I think, on these guys. Yeah, that's negative. That's not how that works. Yeah, but on the upside, the lower end of the upper bands for the fib Bollinger Bands is all the way up at $41. So when we reverse on Mara, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna slam right up through a lot of levels that we think would generally stop it, honestly. So yeah, that's it. That's Mara. Let's take a look at Bitfarms. How's Bitfarms doing? Bitfarms came down to, that is the Canadian one. Let me do the American one. There we go. It came down to 179 today. Oof, had a low of like 177 or so this week. Not today, this week. Sorry, it came down to 179 this week again. So this is what looks a little better here, right? Let me turn those off. This is what's a little bit better. This week's candle here did not go below the August 5th lows, which were honestly, I think 168, 165, 166, and the body is at about 170. So we've got until about 170 before I'm like, we're in trouble. On Bitfarms, thinking that's going to go lower, because if it takes out that low there, then our next area of support after that is all the way down at about 130, maybe even in the 120s. So Bitfarms, little bit in trouble there if they go much lower. Now we are getting higher lows. We got a higher low right here, right? Higher low there on May 13th and a higher low on August 5th, which was higher than May. If we make a higher low right here where we are on Bitfarms, that's actually not a bad sign. We just need to make well, we need to make a higher high, but we've noticed we've got a lower high, a high here, a lower high, a lower high, And even this one here from June 2024 was a lower high than February 2024. So we have been making lower highs and higher lows. So we've been getting a compressed price action on Bitfarms for quite some time now. And usually those end in pretty significant, intense breaks. Now, we're very, very low on this stock. So I really don't see that break being to the downside. If I could delete the right thing, that would really make me happy right now. So I'm not too concerned about the downside risk for Bitfarms right now at this particular juncture. Get rid of that. That doesn't matter anymore. Because the farthest it's going to come down is what? 78 cents, $1 or something. Honestly, it comes down to $1. I'll load up on Bitfarms if it hit $1. I'd be very, unless there was like some underlying reason why it hit $1 and it was really bad. Otherwise, I'd be like, yeah, Bitfarms at $1. Let's go. Assuming there's no fundamental risk, new risk that has been, come to the table here on Bitfarms, of course. And of course, none of this is financial advice or a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any asset whatsoever. This is purely for informational and entertainment purposes here at the Trade Cave. All right, let's take a look at the fib bands. Okay, the fib bands. How do we look on the fib bands? Not great, not bad. So we failed, honestly, we failed to break above this thing, this 200-week moving average 1, 2, 3, 4 times. We failed at this 4 times. How much you want to bet the 5th time we test that is going to be the one that does the trick here? Because notice this little lower one here didn't even get up to it. So I bet you the next time we tap this thing, we really tap that thing, go right through it. That's what I'm looking for here, and potentially we go for the top ATR band, maybe 340, or maybe we go for this cloud up here. We haven't been up there, honestly, in those levels since the bull run last time in 2021. So that would be pretty cool. On the lower end here, so we've got the bottom ATR band to catch us down at 121. We are making candles beneath the mid ATR band and beneath the 200-week moving average, so neither of that is particularly good, but it is in a good place since it has not taken out the low from August 5th yet, so that's in a better place than Riot as well as Clsk. Let's take a look here. The bottom Bollinger Band, yeah, down 120. So we're not really going to go much lower than 120 at all if we even get there on Bitfarms. And on the upside on the Bollinger is 343. So there's a lot of nice movement here that we could see in coming weeks or days. Of course, we will need Bitcoin to act accordingly and take us up with it. But for now, I mean, the chart here doesn't look too bad. All right, let's move on to Bitdigital. Bitdigital. What's going on with Bitdigital? Still making that megaphone. We had 2 weeks. These are so bad. Now, the thing, again, just like with Cleanspark, I don't know if you've been looking at this. I haven't looked every time, but the volume is getting smaller, even though so this is a big, interesting tell here. Okay, big, interesting tell. How big is this candle? It's a full body. There's no wick on this thing. Look at that. That is just a solid selling pressure. But look how this volume is way smaller. It's way small. Volume is dropping big time. Look how much smaller this candle here is on August 12th and how much bigger that volume bar is. That's like almost twice the volume. Let me see here. Is it going to tell me the volume? This was 65 million shares and today was 29. So less than half the volume went into this giant candle coming down versus this little candle down there. This also shows, this wick on bottom shows that there were way more buyers pushing up the shares at that level than, basically nobody fought this thing at all as it came down the last 2 weeks. Nobody fought it whatsoever. What about this time? The last time we did a big candle like this. Let's see how this compares to last week's candle. So last week's candle, it's a little bit bigger than last week's candle, but last week had 35.9 million shares trading of volume for that versus this week's 29 million shares. So significantly less volume, much bigger candle. That's a good sign for potential reversal candidates there. This one right here, look at this. This big boy right here had 55 million shares in its volume, and it's only slightly bigger than this candle that had 29 million shares, almost twice the volume to get this candle that is just slightly bigger than the candle that we got this week. That means there were absolutely no buyers this week, none. That means the buyers were not stepping up to the plate at all to defend anything. So that's interesting, and I wonder how spirited the sellers will be once those buyers actually do step back in here. Let's see if we've got anything to look at that kind of gives us right here. I don't even have to go very far. Right here, All right, let's take a look at this right there, this little section right there. Now notice how the volume is falling from. Let me zoom in on this so I can really get that going. Let's do this right. All right, give me a second. Let's do this right. All right. Now I'll get my volume over there, and yeah, that's fine. Okay, so we had this green one, this green boy right here was 41 million, right? 41 million 5 shares. This one was 29 million shares right here. And that came all the way down, right? And then this next one that was even bigger was 25 million shares. So 29 million, 25 million as it came down. And this is a bigger candle, much like with no wicks on it. Much like this over here is a bigger candle with no wicks on it. And it went from, what is this, 35 million down to 29 million shares to do that big move. And then the next day had higher volume, and we barely moved down at all. That's because the buyer started stepping in. We got that wick, right? That wick. And then boom, just reversal, right? We came in, did big move up, bit of a flag, couple of inside bars, these 3 inside bars, and then boom, 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 we're on our way running. I'm looking for something like that coming through. I'm looking for this to be like this candle to be next week, and then the 3rd week of September after the rate cut, see some moves like this, and maybe a little bit of sideways action as the first 2 weeks of October come in, and then the 3rd, 4th week of October, we're just like, see ya, and taking off. That's what I'm looking for, something like that here on the Bit chart. Okay, it's a little technical class for you there right now, real quick. Okay, so basically Bit we're looking for it to do a reversal at some point. We are seeing that the volume is falling here pretty dramatically as the candles are getting huge comparatively. Let's take a look here. We're nowhere near any of the Bollingers. We just printed a down signal with the 13 crossing over, oh, the 5 crossing over the 13 EMA there, which is negative overall. So we are still negative in terms of how we are moving. Okay, we are still negative in that respect. All right, let's take a look at the fib clouds. Fib clouds, ooh, this one closed completely away from it. Oh, that's not good. We could come down to, potentially come back down to like that $2 level on Bit still. I think I'll be a buyer of Bit around $2. I think that is a good solid zone for me to do that potentially. That's it for Bit honestly. Let's take a look at the next one. Iren, how's Iren doing? Iren is also getting smaller volume on a bigger candle here coming through. You can see it right there. We had last week, the week before was 76.897 million shares for this tiny little doji candle here, and then for this week's candle it was 55 million. So we went from 76 to 55 million, and we got a significantly larger candle, meaning that there are basically very few buyers stepping in to defend this zone at all right now. And I think once they do come in, we'll see some flatness as they fight the sellers, and then when they defeat the sellers, we'll see a big pop up like that, and then it will be followed by 2, 3, 4 weeks of solid big old green up moves. That's what I'm looking for there. Now we have not taken out the August 5th low yet, not at all. We haven't really touched it yet, which is around 623 for the body, $6 for the wick. As long as we stay above that, we could reverse this thing around and make this over here look like a double bottom, where we have our bottom right here from August 5th. We came up for late August, and then early September we could make a second bottom, and then late September, October we could be working our way back towards the neckline of that double bottom, and then November we could be finding ourselves back up in the teens here for Iren if we are lucky. So that's what I'm kind of looking for, something like that, right, on Iren. So that's all I got to say for Iren. Let's take a look at the Bollingers. Where are we? We just crossed below the 50-week moving average. That's not ideal. We do need to get back above that thing. We are operating off of this sell signal up here, where the 5 crossed over the 13 exponential moving average. Look how wide those Bollinger Bands are. Wow, those things are wide. The lower one is all the way down at 21 cents. The upper one is all the way up at $17.76. This thing whipsawed up and down again. What a wild, wild ride Iren has been. I have been DCAing into this thing at these levels. My average for Iren right now, I think it's $7.50. I think that's where I'm at right now for Iren in terms of my average cost. I'm going to go ahead and check that out real quick right now. Come on, load on up. Here we go, and there is my Iren average cost. I've got 500 shares. Average cost $7.36. I did sell on earnings day for Iren when it popped up 20%. I took that 20%, sold it, and I bought back in at under $7 on my Iren, just to be completely transparent on what I've done with my Iren thus far. This has been kind of a fun ride for me. I'm very interested in where Iren is going to go in the near future, and I am slowly DCAing more shares as it is under $7 as it moves its way down. I'm looking for those bottoms. All right, Core Scientific, Corz. Corz looks good. Moving on. It's bullish. It's still looking bullish. There's something to be said in this chart here. Notice how the volume here for this week is higher than last week. So this week we had, let's take a look. This week we had 37 million shares, and the week before we had 35 million shares. So the volume is rising as the candle is getting bigger and redder. Okay, so that is a more of an indication that Corz wants to move down more so than its peers right now. And now, of course, Corz is way up. It is way elevated compared to its peers. It really did not have a fall off. It's probably due for its fall off time. So pay attention to that. We're watching for that. We're looking for it. The August 5th low is all the way down here at $7. We haven't even tried to go for it again. Okay, we haven't even tried to go for it again. Now we start getting down to, I don't know, the 823 level, and we get a candle like we did in on August 12th with this huge volume and this big old tail on bottom, just a comet flying for the sky there on this one. That was a terrible analogy. The comets don't do that. Science is not my profession. Anyways, looking like if we get a candle like that here in the coming days, then I would say that bearish sentiment is out. Because, I mean, as you look here, volume was rising on these candles, like selling volume was rising on these candles as price was also continuing to increase with these red candles. So, I mean, we could see something like that on Corz again, but I'm just notating that on this chart that, you know, it hasn't been around long enough to have tons of data. The data I am seeing is that the volume is increasing as price is dropping. So that is a little more of a bearish sentiment at the moment. Let's take a look if they even have anything going on in the EMAs. We've got two of them. The bottom Bollinger is at negative 24 cents, so that's bankruptcy. No, it's not going bankrupt. Don't listen to that. The top one is at 16.26. I could see it doing that if it gets above that 12.22 over there on the left. Yeah, we're below the 20-week moving average. That's not ideal. No, sorry, the 13-week moving average and the 5-week moving average. It looks like it wants to slowly work towards giving us a downward cross. We get that downward cross on 13. The 5 over the 13 on the EMAs, I would be expecting price to come down to the 823, potentially revisit the lows from August 5th here down around $7. Let's take a look at Wulf. How's Wulf doing? That's bad. I don't like what I'm seeing right now. This is a stair step down. Oof. So we came down, retested a key area, failed it, and we're going to potentially, if we get past 281, we're going to come down into this support here, maybe come up again, and then maybe stair step down another time, potentially. That's like I mean, that's my biggest fear when I look at these things. So yeah, that could be an issue. Let's take a look at some other stuff here. So what do I want to see right now? I would like to see, yeah, same with Wulf. See how the volume bar here is larger? So last week's volume was, so let's go hover over it and see. Last week's volume was 67 million. This week was 69 million. And we got about the same size bar, but it did is coming down on growing volume. We don't like that. We don't want to see that kind of thing right now. That is bad news. We don't want to see price dropping on increasing volume. That means it's going to drop more. So right now we do have 330 and 275 in the way here. The lows for August 5th being that 275. As long as we're above that, we are in business in terms of being able to turn this ship around and move on up. As soon as we get below that, we're going to be having some hard times here. Let's take a look at the fib bands. What do we got here? ATR bands. The low band is at 158. The 200-week moving average is down at 282. I wouldn't be surprised if we tapped that 282 and then started taking our weight back on up. We are below the mid ATR band. Right now we close underneath it. If we open and close beneath it next week, I would be looking for it to come down to that 200-week moving average and assess from there and see where it's going to go. On the upside, we got to conquer that mid ATR band at 417 so we can work our way back up into the 5s and potentially even the 6s here on Wulf. But right now it is looking like it is leaning a little bit bearish right now, Wulf, compared to some of its peers. But it is holding stronger. Like, this is looking like it wants to do a similar move to like Clean Spark and Mara. It's just catching up to that move as we go forward right now on this chart. Let's take a look at Cifr. How's Cifr doing? Ooh, that is one dumpster fire. Okay, Cifr all the way down at 270. It went below my white line. I don't like when things go below my white line, so I got to move my white line there. There we go. Oof, man, that is coming down to like the staunchest level of support here. Now, like I said before, once we break this green line here and flatten out, break it, and then come back up, we could see some good movement out of this. And I know I've mentioned this before, but there was a bit of a rising wedge here, like right here. And yeah, there it is. Yeah, you can see it. You can see that wedge-like formation right here and there. It was a bit of a rising wedge. And it broke to the downside, and it broke beautifully, and it's coming down all the way to the ultimate support from that rising wedge. So that we could be seeing this thing finally base out and want to turn around here for Cifr based on that, just the fact that it's reached the bottom of that pattern. Let's take a look at the EMAs. All right. The EMAs, we got a downward cross here on that flag. Yeah, that makes sense. The bottom Bollinger is down at $2.02. I don't necessarily seeing us get there, but I mean, we could flash down there for a day or so, especially considering how volatile everything has been lately. Let's take a look at the fib clouds as well. The bottom ATR down at 190. The mid ATR is all the way up at 489. So when we start going back up again, we got a long ways just to get to the mid ATR band. So that's actually good news if you're buying down at these levels, if you believe in Cifr and what it is capable of. Up at the top there, we got 686. That is quite the move from where we currently are. A little more than a double there. That would be pretty sweet move if we were able to capture it. But at this time, I am looking at Cifr to potentially kind of like move along sideways a bit, maybe sideways to down a little bit before we start to see a recovery. And we really need to get up above about 420 in order to really make a recovery on Cifr. Let's take a look at HUT. Man, I'm running out of breath here. This is getting long. Okay, it is falling on lowering volume. The volume has been lowering ever since we started falling in July. That is good. That is different from Wulf. That is different from Corz Scientific. That is good news here. Falling volume as price falls. That's good. That's divergence. We want to see that if it's falling and we want the price to go back up. We came back down to ultimate support down here around $12. We went a little bit lower than $12, but this is kind of ultimate support for HUT is in this area. We have traded here a lot between that $11 to $12 range. Well, really $11 to $13 range. We've traded there quite a lot on HUT. This is where it likes to base and then run. I mean, look, it's done it. Let's see. It has done it. Well, not there because that was a dip. Once, twice, 3 times now, just in the last 2 years. So it likes to come to this area, base, and then launch. So watch for that on HUT. We're looking for the launch pad here. We're looking for it to come up and then back test an area, probably the $17 area, right? Like pop up above it to like $18, $19, come back, test that $17 range, and then bounce off of it. And that's how we know that we are taking off on HUT. What was the other one? There was one more I wanted to look at. Riot. Almost forgot about Riot. Riot, the weekly, also a dumpster fire. Okay, so Riot is down now into this support back here from January 2023. We have to go all the way back to January 2023 to find support for where we currently are on Riot. This is one huge body here now. One saving grace. Volume has been dropping ever since we started falling in mid-July. So the volume is getting smaller as we are moving down further and further. So we had 57 million shares this week traded and 67 the week before, and we got a bigger, deeper candle this week than we did last week. So there's some big divergence in the volume here. And I think once we turn around, we're probably going to turn around pretty hard on this, just like many of the other Bitcoin miners. Okay, let's take a look at the Bollinger Bands. We are near the bottom of that Bollinger Band. It's down there at 536, so we could drop a whole other dollar before the Bollinger Band catches us on this thing. We are operating off of a sell signal from the 5 and 13 EMA crossing downward. Let's take a look at the fib clouds for this one. Let's see how those look. We are nowhere near the bottom ATR band there. It's all the way down at $5, so another $1.38 that we could drop there just to get to the bottom of the ATR band. But we do have a long way to go up to the mid ATR band, which is at 1048. Above that, the other ATR band is at 1434. I'm thinking that's probably the highest high we're going to reach around the Christmas time if we get anywhere on Riot. It's really got to get some momentum, otherwise we're going to have a real bad time here. Well, continue to have a real bad time here. The upper weekly fib bands start at the top 2 ones start at 40 and go all the way up to 54. So that's promising once we get out of this slump and see the parabolic move like we saw back here in 2021, that parabolic move that took us into those top fib bands. Once we start seeing that come through, yeah, Riot's going to have a big move up, but right now we are just falling and falling and falling and falling and falling. And it's been kind of demoralizing. All right, so that's all I've got for you today. Please like, comment, subscribe, share this video. Check out the Trade Cave store, link in the description, as well as the channel bio, and have a profitable day.